Hello, everyone. I'm Simon, your host from SiteGround, the website hosting service that helps you start, grow, and succeed online. Our topic today is how to get started with email marketing, right on time for the upcoming holiday season. We'll cover the key elements of email marketing, like building your email list, tweaking your email campaigns to convert better, and choosing the right email solution for you. We recently launched our own built-in email marketing tool, so if you're a SiteGround client, make sure you check it out. But of course, email marketing is a huge topic and there are tons of practical tips and advice to get you started, regardless of the tool you choose. So to help you with that are my guests today, both well versed in email marketing. Alessandra Farabegoli, digital agency owner and email marketing expert, and Emmanuel Chinka, entrepreneur and creator of Stacked Marketer. Hey guys.
Hi there.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you folks doing?
Very well, thank you. As you know, I'm based in Italy, so it's afternoon for us and for all our European listeners. But I suppose I must say good morning to you and
All right.
or Americans.
Of course.
Yeah, same here. I'm based in Austria, so a little bit more in the north than Italy, but same time zone. And just small warning, if you hear some noise, I'm actually taking the space from the park, enjoying some nature while also having this interesting chat about email. So just let me know if anything is too loud, but hopefully everything is okay. And yeah, looking forward to our chat.
Sure, definitely. So before we start, just a note that a recording of our whole session will be available on our Twitter page and YouTube. So don't forget to follow SiteGround and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening and have questions, please post them on Twitter with the hashtag SMBGrowthChat, and we'll make sure to answer them here if we have the time or follow up after the session. Now, without further ado, let's kick off the chat, starting with my first question. Who is email marketing for? Is it just for established businesses and companies with big budgets? What do you think, Alessandra?
Oh, well, email marketing, maybe it's not for everybody, but surely it's for many. You don't need to have huge budgets because you can start small. May say that email marketing is for anyone who has recurring customers. For example, anyone who sells apparel, food, shoes, books, anyone who organizes events, and for B2B, business to business businesses, companies who need to nurture leads and grow them until they buy, maybe not on a website, but by direct sales. So email marketing is for everybody who has a long-term relationship with their customers.
Okay. Emmanuel, what do you think?
Yeah, I mostly agree with Alessandra. I think email marketing is almost basically for everyone. I know that depending on what resources you have and what strengths you already have within your marketing team, maybe email marketing is not the first thing that you think about doing, but it's hard to beat the fact that email is a direct connection with any readership, any audience, any people interested in your company. So I think email marketing in the long term, it's for everyone. Maybe initially it's not for everyone. And one twist on that, or like on the term email marketing, is that there's email marketing where you essentially try to to nurture leads and to essentially to sell something to them at some point. That doesn't mean that you're pushy or anything, but you have to remember that email is also a communication channel between you to many people. So this is something that comes to mind for me because of most of the email that I do is in the newsletter space, and there it's not exactly email marketing in the classic sense where we build sequences all the time and we think only about how the customer journey looks like. We think of it as a communication channel to deliver content as well. So there's many aspects of email that are useful across more sectors in your business. So definitely email marketing, most underrated thing, because when I started in marketing, people were only, let's say, the only people who were with experience were doing email marketing. New people were not doing it. And then over time, I kind of got more experience, and I'm thinking, why didn't we do email marketing earlier? That's kind of a wrap up of my thoughts.
Thank you. That was very insightful. Indeed, folks, email marketing isn't just for business owners. It's a powerful tool that anyone can use, even if you don't have an online store. Whether you're a blogger, an artist showcasing your portfolio, an NGO, or even just an enthusiast sharing your passion, email marketing is a powerful tool to engage and grow your audience. Now, let's move on to the second question. What are your top tips and strategies on how to effectively grow your email list? Alessandra, can you share your insights?
Yes, the main advice I can give is know your ideal subscriber. You have to know your people, you have to know your audience, and you have to exert empathy, and because you have to understand what kind of interesting content or relevant content you can offer, at what time, and what kind of reward you can offer to people who are thinking to join your list. So you have to build your promise and tell it effectively in plain language. Explain clearly what you get if you subscribe my list. And then you have to know the people you want to join your list, because you have to know where to look for them. You have to know how to advertise your list. Maybe on social networks, maybe on your packaging, but you have to know where are the people you want to join your list. So know your audience and try to understand what can trigger them. This is the basics.
Emmanuel, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I think the key point from all of that, from my experience, is that deliver on your promise. So if you deliver a lead, like if you try to get people to subscribe to your list through a lead magnet that deals with, how to create social campaigns, but then you deliver content around SEO, that might not be a good idea, even though it's still kind of marketing department. So just make sure that whatever you promise in any sort of lead magnet or any reason that you give people to sign up, the content that you continue to deliver, the information, the products continue to be within that sphere. And maybe like to also think of it of a way where to drive this traffic from. I think if you have a decent scale, I think paid social is a very good one. But if you maybe don't have decent scale and you want to go for the highest quality subscribers, I would say think of other email lists, other email newsletters. In our case, for newsletter readers, there's never been a better way to get subscribers than never been higher quality subscribers than other people who read newsletters. So in general, newsletter readers who read other newsletters. So if you're really going for the highest quality and you can afford it, I would think look at other email lists for people who are already engaged within a different list, a different newsletter from whatever you're building for yourself.
Yes, if I can add something, guest posts and guest newsletters are a great way to make you known by other newsletters readers. And
exactly,
yes. And I want to pinpoint that it's not the numbers, it's the quality. You want to grow your list with people who actually want to stay with you and continue to read, not necessarily buy, but continue to stay with you and be engaged in the long term.
Yeah, agreed, totally.
And I just want to mention real quick that SiteGround clients using our email marketing tool can easily add a subscribers form on their site and start collecting subscribers and building their email list with our lead generation plugin for WordPress. It's the perfect opportunity to build a lasting relationship with your website visitors, nurture them, and turn them into loyal customers and fans. So all of this goes to say that choosing the right tools is crucial. Here's my next question. What features do you prioritize when selecting an email marketing solution?
Well, it depends. If I'm working with an e-commerce project, of course, we need and automation features that allow us to create automated workflows such as an abandoned cart or a complex welcome series who can segment people and differentiate messages. If I'm working on a publishing project, ease of use of the email editor is crucial, and maybe the ability to segment subscribers in order to send relevant messages to the right people.
Yeah, it's very difficult to say more than it depends. So, like Alexandra said, it depends is basically the correct answer, and then you have to really think what it depends on. So, if you're doing a newsletter, you might want something different than if you're doing e-commerce. If you're, and what kind of newsletter are you doing? What kind of setup do you have? So, we usually look at, since I'm coming from a publisher, newsletter publisher perspective, we look at newsletter focused features. So we need to have things like highly customizable templates that are then easy to use. So where we don't have to redo HTML or like go into HTML to personalize them or input a new newsletter. We want to have a good team member permission, so like to be able to have different roles for different members on our team to either do reports and do send newsletters, but some people just view what we've sent, those kind of things. And lastly, integrations, so integrating with WordPress or whatever other solutions that we use is also important for us. So I would say that most of the time people are spoiled for choice these days. I think I've seen newsletters done in almost everything, and I've also seen good email marketing done with almost any solution out there.
Yes, and as Emmanuel says, ease of use is key. That's why our SiteGround email marketing tool is designed for simplicity and efficiency. It's user friendly and integrated into the SiteGround client area, allowing seamless management of your website and email campaigns in the same place. Also, sending stunning emails has never been easier. In just a few clicks, you can choose from our high converting email layouts, customize them to suit your brand, and send your campaign in a matter of minutes. Do you have any tips on how to ensure your email campaign lands in the inbox and not the spam folder?
Well, the main factor is how do you keep your sender reputation? If you keep your promises and you continue to send relevant content and people stay engaged, this is the best thing you can do to ensure you get to the inbox, you reach the inbox. And of course, there are technicalities such as authenticating domain and things like that. And of course, not putting spammy contents and having the right HTML, not wrong HTML in your email. But these are things that a good tool takes care of. So you just have to write your content and the correctness of the code is almost granted. But the main thing is how do you keep the relationship with your subscribers so that they continue to think that you are worth opening and clicking and reading.
Yeah. So I think for the most part, so email deliverability is something that I can talk for like probably the whole space now. It's very like it's a very tricky topic overall. Not in the sense that so let me go backwards. So even though you would say like email is direct connection with your audience, it is, but there's still some algorithms behind it, right? That's why you have spam. That's why you have all sorts of different tabs, promotions, especially for Gmail, which is the dominant like email inbox these days. So for Gmail specifically, I would like to address a few things for deliverability, because I think spam is not the main the main concern of most people these days. So if you follow the rules that most email service providers come up with, you'll usually not go into spam. Very rare, it's possible, but it's it's very unlikely. So unless you truly are kind of spammy, you won't go into spam. But you will go into promotions tab. And the promotions tab is one where also the engagement rate will kind of dwindle, and then it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Less people engage with you, therefore the new people who subscribe to you will get your emails and promotions, and less will engage. So you kind of dig yourself a hole that sometimes it's hard to get out of. Now, how to kind of fix this? What we've seen is that the best thing to do is get high engagement on your very early email, their first email. Like if you have a welcome email, which is very standard practice, get engagement on that. Click is great. Reply is even better. So try to get replies to your first welcome email. A good tip here is offer something of value in exchange for a reply. So for example, there's the typical funnel where you offer a lead magnet before someone signs up, but you can also think of ways to do an extra bonus lead magnet if people reply. And even if it's a simple reply, send it to me, or yes, I'd like to hear more. That engagement will help you a lot to usually go to the updates or the primary inbox, whichever people prefer. But what that means is that people get a notification when you send them an email, and also for the new people who subscribe, they will default to that one to begin with, unless they start becoming disengaged. So that's one important part that will build your reputation for your sender, so your domain, your IPs, and everything like that. And one other factor here is that maybe, I think it's known, but maybe not as discussed, is that your exact email address has a different reputation than, another email address. For example, if you send from, email sender 1 at SiteGround is not the same as email sender 2 at SiteGround. So you have to, I would say best practice is to make sure that every sender is, you consider every sender a bit different. There's, of course, some overlapping based on your domain, but the sender itself matters significantly. And therefore, maybe like an add-on to the how to choose your email service provider, kind of this goes together. Some email service providers don't let you completely set up old authentication and SPF and DMARC through them, which you actually want, because if they don't allow you to do that, or if it's very complicated to do it, you cannot add your custom domain, which usually that's the key to the inbox, essentially. So your own domain, your sender, that's the key to your subscriber's inbox. So therefore, if they don't let you input all this information in your account, you cannot switch easily from it, and you don't have the key. The key is owned by them. So, for example, if you go to Substack nowadays and you create a newsletter, I'm pretty sure that most of the time it's I think you can change domains, but you send through a Substack email. When you switch, and if you want to switch to any other provider, you no longer have the key to the inbox as easily, right? Because people subscribe to a Substack domain, not to yours. So that's something I think less discussed than it should be, that for deliverability, all the best practices that Alessandra mentioned, but put them on your own domain, and just try to get engagement from very early on, from your very first email, to end my rant, because I know I can go on for a long time.
Yes, I'm just jumping in here real quick to add a bit to what the experts were saying. Here at SiteGround, we are really serious about making sure your emails hit your audience's inbox. So we've got this nifty trick up our sleeve called one-time domain authentication. I won't dive into the tech jargon, especially since we're all watching the clock, but what it does is it really boosts the odds of your emails ending up right in your audience's inbox. And guess what? The more emails that get delivered, the better your reputation gets. All right, moving on with the questions. Every email campaign has a purpose. What are your top 3 email campaigns every site owner should consider?
Yes, I will build on what Emmanuel has told about deliverability, because I think the most important campaign are the welcome email or the welcome series. Because when a subscriber enters your list, it's the peak of interest moment. Their interest is top, and you have to build on this interest of this engagement, and you have to under promise and over deliver, or maybe over promise and over deliver. So the first emails that you send are very important, because those are the emails that make people think, okay, it was good to subscribe to this newsletter because they are sending me interesting content. So the first emails are the most important. Then, of course, if you sell online, there are automations such as post-purchase emails or abandoned carts or win-back workflows and all kind of automation you can set up in order to nurture your customers and help them use better your products and maybe cross-sell and upsell something. But you must have a plan. So you better find your regular schedule to send newsletter, because I think that constance is the key. I mean, your newsletter must be an appointment. People must know, okay, today this newsletter is coming and I want to read it. So you have to create your calendar and know what topics you want to build on and keep writing regularly.
Cool. I can add a couple of things to that. So I would definitely like to emphasize again, like Alessandra said, welcome email, welcome sequence, super, super important. Get the engagement, get replies there. It cannot be understated how important it is, I think, especially these days with highly personalized delivery. Like, it doesn't matter that you get your own emails in your inbox, doesn't mean that everyone else does. So get everyone to engage as much as possible. Then I would have two probably other, or like maybe there's more. Let me just say like one other important, I think, sequence you should have or type of email you should have is the re-engagement email to try to clean up your list. So essentially, if someone disengages after a long period of time, depends on how you define it. I would usually say define it based on emails that they've received, not on time, because if you send one email a year is not a long time to not engage with you, you know. So think of emails sent that they didn't engage. Send them a re-engagement email. If they don't engage with you, then consider segmenting them out, unsubscribing them, whatever fits for your purpose. But essentially, know that they should not receive as many emails as everyone else, because that might end up hurting your your reputation. And it goes hand in hand with what Alessandra mentioned at the beginning. You want loyal readers. You want people who really care about you. It's not a great thing to have people who don't care about you on your list, even though you might be able, you know, it's easy to get subscribers. It's hard to get loyal readers, and it's hard to get, you know, the kind of engaged subscribers that will eventually purchase from you. And it's fine. Just focus on the quality aspect of things. And this is something that can help you with the re-engagement sequence. And then, yeah, the segmentation there, maybe it depends again a little bit. I would recommend to do it for new people who are not engaging early on, people who've dropped off, so older subscribers who have become inactive. And nowadays, depending on what your ESP has as a feature, trying to at least keep track of whoever is an Apple Mail privacy user. So either put them into, if someone opens all your emails, never clicks, very likely Apple Mail privacy users and likely disengage. So think of a few ways to deal with that as well for your own purpose. It's, you know, it depends what tools your ESP offers to really deal with that. But I would say it's something important to look into, and it's an important type of email campaign to send out, because it will keep your list quite clean. And yeah, everything else Alessandra said already that I had in mind too, so I'm not going to repeat that.
Okay. Both of you mentioned welcome emails, which are honestly, those are emails that you send out when someone subscribes to you. But apart from the welcoming emails, how often do you think brands should reach out to their subscribers? Is there an ideal time or day to press send?
No, the right answer is always it depends. There is no right answer, and there is no one size fits all. You must know your audience and try to understand what is the best moment for them. Because, I mean, everybody of us checks email every day, every time since we get up till night. But what is the right moment when I am ready to read this message, when I can be interested to read about this topic or to consider this product or this content. It really depends on your list, on their habits, on what you send and propose and what you write, and what is the relationship. Of course, you must avoid very busy times of the week. For example, Monday morning is not generally the best moment to send business to business campaigns, but for every rule, you can find an exception. So I really don't like rigid rules. This is the right day, this is the right time of the day. I don't know if Manuel has more. Yeah.
Yeah. I mostly agree. I have one exception, but it's not exactly an exception. So, for example, I think it depends on the purpose of the email, right? I think that's what you were kind of going for, Alessandra.
Yeah, I mean, there are emails that must be sent immediately. For example, the welcome email must be sent immediately, or the post-purchase email must have a very precise timing. But for every other regular email, I mean, I have seen, and you can experiment. This is a good thing to make an A/B test on, because you don't really know.
Yes. Yeah. So I have one exception from our own experience, or not a complete exception that I wanted to mention. So we send a weekday newsletter, so Monday to Friday. And what we've noticed is that Monday is still okay, but to keep in mind is we don't sell something where people have to make a decision to purchase right away or anything like that. We sell information, right? So we give them the news and latest case studies about marketing. So therefore, like it's part of their job. So we've noticed that for us, even though it's a busier time, Monday still fits well, and especially Monday mornings, Eastern time, I would say. Still gets like same engagement Monday to Thursday, and even Friday in the end has the same engagement. For example, for us, Friday would be a little bit slower because people are not at work. So we send an email that people like to read within their, let's say, within their work routine, not necessarily in the work schedule. So if you have emails that are good for when people work, send them when they're working. If you want to send something that's, when they have to think about planning a trip, you probably want to send it to them after work. So all these things really, really matter. What you're sending in the email matters a lot more than a one-size-fits-all, like Alessandra said. And that's why there's always going to be exceptions to whatever case studies you find out there where they say, 7 a.m. on Monday is the worst time. Probably for the average email, but think about what you're sending and what type of people are reading.
Of course, there are news emails. Yes, there are news emails that I read every morning, even on Monday, and it's totally okay. It depends on what you are writing and what is the relations. What are the expectations of your readers?
Of course, checking email is the first thing that I do every morning. So it makes sense that if you're sending out newsletters, it's okay to send it in the morning. But I'm not ready to make a decision of purchasing a product at 7 a.m. So what you folks are saying just makes sense totally. Moving on with the next question that I have. What are the top 3 factors that would make people open an email?
I'd say the sender, the reputation of the sender, who is writing me. The sender is the first thing we are checking while browsing the emails, the new emails. And so is this person, is this company regularly writing interesting content? I can give you my attention. If not so, skip and archive or delete without reading. Then, of course, for the same sender, you have to write engaging subjects, and the pre-header is very important. I often, when I start working with a new client and they don't have very stellar opening rates, I look and they generally don't use the pre-header text. And this is very helpful to make newsletters and emails opened, because it's a help to explain what you will find inside. I always say the subject and the pre-header are the ambassadors of the email, but the most important thing is keep a good relationship with your readers.
Yeah, if I were to rank the top three, would be where do you land? So if your deliverability is good, it makes a huge difference. Even though, like, if too often that you hear it repeated, I think that it's fine because people will look for your emails. It's true that some people will, but not as many because it's kind of like it's a small nudge when you land in their inbox or in their updates in a tab that generates a notification. So that will be the main factor where you land. If you land in the inbox or updates tab where they get a notification, your open rates will just increase by a significant margin. It won't be, like they will double, but it will be significant enough that you notice it. And then, like Alessandra said, sender probably beats the subject line overall, unless you have very bad subject lines. If you have just normal subject lines that are, using with best practices, your sender reputation, like your personal reputation, not your inbox reputation, so not your algorithm reputation, will beat a subject line. And I can kind of say that we experimented with subject lines a fair bit. We did very long ones, we did medium length, and we did very short ones, which by very short, I mean like 1 to 3 words maximum. And in our case, 1 to 3 words maximum does really well, and it makes us kind of stand out in the inbox as well. So we like all our newsletters regularly have very short subject lines that are slight teasers of what is inside, but literally 1 to 3 words. And there's you don't have to over engineer it or overthink it. It works really well once you have the good deliverability, and once you have that good relationship that the readers know that you will deliver useful information within your email.
Okay, so you would rank them number one is sender, then pre-header, and subject line.
I don't know about subject line or pre-header. I think they're pretty useful both. Alessandra, any thoughts of that ranking between the two?
I don't know. Subject line, of course, is the first thing you read, but everybody takes care of their subject lines. But less people work on their pre-headers. So pre-header is maybe important, even if you work to make it blank and use blank spaces. So your email stands out on Gmail because it has a bit of space around. So you have to, it's the same thing as having very short subject lines. You must stand out in a way, but I mean, the most important thing is sender. And of course, where you land, even if I'm not afraid of a promotions tab. But of course, where you land is linked to your sender reputation, because if you write newsletters that people tend to answer to, you probably land in inbox. If you are just writing commercial newsletter, you probably land in promotion, and it's right to land on promotions. The most important thing is that your promotions are good, interesting, and relevant, and convenient for people. So I'd say sender and the combo subject and pre-header.
Yeah, I think people underestimate how ugly it looks if you don't set a pre-header yourself. Like, it just jumps and takes whatever HTML stuff, well, not HTML, but it takes the read-in browser link or the date or whatever, and it looks pretty ugly if you don't have a pre-header set. So I would say, like Alessandro said, at least work a pre-header that's empty, but probably just continue the idea from the subject line. Perhaps just use a pre-header at least.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Can you share your best practices for email segmentation and personalization?
Well, if you work on an e-commerce project, the most obvious segmentation is between people who are already customers and people who are not. Then for customers, RFM matrix is key. So how often do they buy, what is their lifetime value, what is the last time they have bought something. If you are not on an e-commerce project, you can segment on interests, and then you have to think to ask people what are their interests for, so to use zero-party data, or infer their interests from where they click on.
Yeah, I can add a bit more thoughts on the non-e-commerce side of things. So on the e-commerce, I think Alessandra has way more experience than me. So I only know the basics there. For for publishers, for like newsletter publishers specifically, you can do interest like Alessandra said. Then you can also sometimes have segmentation by frequency they want emails delivered. That's something that you can think of to add. And I would say, kind of, again, I mentioned it before, but I think it's important for long-term health of your email list. Make sure you do segment based on activity as well, so like level of activity. So people who are disengaged, you can re-engage on a regular basis. Not like, oh, I will do a segment every 6 months and re-engage them. No, have it with every send. Update your segment so that people who now become disengaged because of the recent email you sent, they get re-engaged, and you take action based on that. So what Alessandra said, plus the frequency sending part, you can segment based on that in many cases. And definitely, I cannot emphasize this enough, the engagement segments to be able to keep an engaged and clean list, and for you to understand where most of your readers are coming from, so to speak, or where do you get your most engagement from, and where maybe your engagement is not lacking, also is lacking. So very important then when you put things together, right? We talked about how to get an email list. If you don't do these segments and and also know where people are coming from, you don't know if your social campaigns bring you engaged subscribers or not. So that's something to keep in mind, that maybe you also want to segment based on source of where the people came from, not necessarily because you personalize for them, but just for you to know on the back end, how are things working? Are they generating an ROI, whatever way you want to measure it, in terms of readership, in terms of sales, etc.
Yeah, if I can add, engagement is very important for e-commerce projects as well, because when you have to regularly clean your list, you have to avoid putting out people who are maybe less engaged but they are customers. And maybe you can write them less often, but you will continue to write them, for example, for sales or Black Friday or special offers or a new product launch, but you lower your frequency so they are not, disturbed, and they don't put you in spam or unsubscribe, because they are customers. But keeping your list clean and is very crucial. And the source, it's very important, because even in e-commerce, you probably do lead acquisition campaigns, but if you realize that maybe people who come from a lead campaign on Meta in the end don't buy anything, you can consider if this campaign or this kind of campaign or Meta is the right place to advertise, because it's not important how many people are in your list, but how much you convert with email marketing.
Before we move on to the next question, I'd like to add that with our email marketing tool, you can target specific audience groups and add a personal touch with dynamic content variables such as the first name of your recipient, etc., ensuring your emails are personal and relevant and increasing open rates. Our system also automatically suppresses hard bounce email addresses to keep your list healthy and improve open rates and your reputation. Now, what elements can you test in order to optimize your campaigns and improve results?
Before telling about what elements I test, I must say that testing only makes sense with large lists. you need numbers to get relevant and statistically significant results. If you just have maybe 2,000 subscribers, you cannot test anything because I mean, you can make an A/B test, but the results won't mean anything. You need at least maybe 20,000 subscribers to get a decent result from an A/B test on subject lines, for example, or sender or timing. And if you want to test some content element, such as the call to action, you need at least 10 times that number. So this is my foreword about testing, because A/B test looks nice, but if you have a small list, it's useful. You just test by repeating your mails and looking at what seems to work and what is not working. I don't know if Emmanuel has other tips on testing.
Well, I did want to say that I was very glad that you brought up the statistical significant point. I think so many people kind of hear about it and that it is important, and then they test with a few hundred subscribers and stuff, and it's, as you said, you don't reach statistical significance. It doesn't mean that you should never test if you don't reach it, but just kind of set your expectations that, whatever result you got might not be the best one. Like the chances that is the best result are, it's like 55-45 chances, not like 99 1%. So you're like almost 100% sure. So expectations of what you achieve through those tests and how accurate they are, I think, is a good forward that I totally agree with. Otherwise, I think subject lines very important to test. I guess maybe one thing to add there is, even if you don't have the volume now, if you have automations or sequences, for example, if you can A/B test your welcome sequence subject line, have it from the beginning. You get a few hundred subscribers in the first month, let's say. You start slow, but then you have it there all the time. And then after 6 months, you might reach a statistical significant result. If you send a newsletter one time, if you have 1,000 subscribers, A/B testing a subject line for them for the one-time send is probably not going to yield results. You can experiment just to see if you get feedback, but that's it. Don't expect the numbers to really be relevant. Otherwise, what other things you can test? I think, from a publisher perspective, I think it's good to test your content structure. So, how often do you write somewhat longer articles? How often do you write kind of bullet points, those sort of things, and try to get feedback? That's probably like the split test your content as much as you can, or at least test it and get, run a survey to your audience if you cannot A/B test it directly and get just the data in their actions or in their engagement. At least get a survey filled and see what kind of information you gather there. That's kind of how you improve any sort of content that you send. You try to get some feedback from the actual readers who care about it.
Okay. And what are the key metrics to track so you can measure the success of your email marketing campaigns?
The best metrics are those who are nearest to your business goals. So when I work on e-commerce, the first thing I test is sales, conversions, or whatever you define as a conversion. Maybe the download of a document or an actual purchase or things like that. Then there are intermediate metrics proper for email marketing. I really love click-to-open rate because it says if I have built the right call to action. And if people who opened my email were persuaded that they could do a step further.
Yeah, for me, I think to build on the point that Alessandra mentioned, it's like, your first or like your fundamental should be what is important for your business. So sales in e-commerce, revenue in other ways. And from there, like, it doesn't mean that it sometimes gets too hard to measure that as frequently, right? Because sometimes sales take a little bit longer depending on what you're selling, and then just build on top and see like, okay, what builds these sales? Is it clicks from the website? Is it opens? Is it how many subscribers we have? And then try to build all those metrics in line. I think especially nowadays, you should be very careful about considering open rate as a very important metric. It's relevant, but you always have to have a lot of context behind it because Apple Mail privacy protection opens 100% of your emails over time. Like there's some lag there and some conditions that they're not 100% known because Apple doesn't make it public, but it's fairly clear now that they open high frequency, almost 100%, and they don't necessarily click, and it's opened by Apple's servers. Like they load it remotely, and then not when someone is actually reading your email. So be careful about considering open rate as a key metric without that context. And then, I think click-through rate is kind of replacing what email was before, what open rate was before. So I think look at your click-through rate. Are people clicking on what you want them to click? And especially if you have a call to action, like Alessandra said. So that's what I would say. Look at your main business ones, then build up from them, usually clicks, so traffic sent to your website, and be careful about also excluding some metrics that might not be useful. I think it's quite valuable to not waste your time and your efforts and your and your health, like in terms of mindset, on metrics that are less relevant now and that are kind of maybe fooling you into thinking that people are engaged, like the open rate.
Okay, with our SiteGround marketing tool, you do have access to built-in analytics to gain insight into metrics such as Emmanuel and Alessandro mentioned, open rate, click rate, bounce rate, and interactions to measure the success of your campaigns. Now, it's time to wrap up our SMB growth chat. Big thank you to our guests and everyone who tuned in. We hope this was helpful. A recording of the chat will be available on Twitter and YouTube, and we'll also be summarizing the answers in a blog post. So make sure you follow SiteGround on social media so you don't miss out. We'll also share the blog post about our email marketing tool on Twitter so you can learn more about our new lead generation plugin for WordPress and our powerful email marketing tool. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great day ahead.
Thank you to everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, folks. Cheers.
Take care. Have a nice day, everyone.
Bye bye. Ciao.
Bye.